There we go, that's about right. Do not use 134A. Woo, that's cold. We're gonna hit -10. Yes, there's the famous -10, and it's still going. This is Howard from BigHBricklin.com, and today we're gonna teach you how to do it yourself at home, charge the air conditioner on your Bricklin. Now remember, there's some hazards here, so follow along very closely. Also, look up your local regulations and codes on how to handle refrigerant. We're gonna fill up the refrigerant with these two service valves right here, and I gotta explain how these valves work, otherwise you could have a problem. The thing you're gonna need right off the bat is a 2-gauge manifold charging set. You can test the system with this set and add refrigerant, and you can put it under a vacuum, which we're going to do all three. Make sure your gauge set has one-way check valves. It's required by law. You need to make sure there's no refrigerant in the car before you start. If there is, you're going to have to take it to an AC guy at a shop and have him remove the refrigerant and put it under a vacuum for a few minutes. Then if you want to charge it yourself, do it. But if you do it at a shop, they're going to try to put 134A in. Do not use 134A in an R12 system. It has the wrong condenser and the wrong hoses and the wrong refrigerant oil. Do not use it. There's an easier, better way. Inside these valves is a back seating and forward seating chamfered valve. There's no O-ring on it. They work very well. What you have to do is rotate this valve in, and that will move forward. Now, this is the side that's hooked to the compressor. This is the side that's hooked to your hose. If I seat this valve all the way over until it stops, and notice how far in that went. This valve is seated on the back side, and this is seated on the forward side. The forward side closes off the line to the AC system. The first place I saw these was on home air conditioning units, and I'm talking central air units. They would fill the compressor and the condenser unit. The outside unit was packed with refrigerant. And when you ran lines into the house, you pulled a vacuum and then opened these lines up, and all the refrigerant would rush into the house. And if you didn't have extra long lines, you were done. I don't know if they packed the refrigerant in the compressor from the factory on Ford systems. This is a Ford engine. They also use it on AMC. This valve, forward seated, would block the hose part of the line, and you could have refrigerant in here. Now, the other part of this valve is the service valve. And when this back seats, it shuts off the service valve. So when you approach a compressor, both these high and low side valves should be all the way out. They should be out about 3/4 of an inch. If they're in farther than that, that means this service valve has been left open, or it is, if it's really short, like a 1/4 inch out, then this is blocked off at the wrong end, and if you start the car, it's going to lock up the compressor and spin the belt off of it, and all kinds of hell breaks loose. So let's go take a look at the car. This valve is 3/4 out. That means the service valve is shut, and you have to unscrew these little caps. If you have them, if you can find them, put them on. There's a little seal inside there. There's the other one. It's supposed to be black, but you can put any seal in it. People mutilate these. Mechanics butcher them up pretty good. This one's at 3/4 also. So that means the service valve is not open. Now at that point, it's safe to remove the service valve cap. You can remove the service cap with a 9/16 inch wrench. They should be on there fairly snug because there's no O-ring in here to keep it from leaking if the service valve is leaking. It's just a tapered fit. That works very well, but it has to be tight. We have to look at whether this is the suction side or the discharge side. Suction is low pressure and discharge is high pressure. Don't forget that. Play this back if you have to. And the blue hose is suction or low pressure. Screw the low pressure hose on firmly. Now there's 3 different ways you can unseat the service valve and open up the service port. You can use a adjustable wrench, but if you do, make sure it's really tight. And then find out which way it starts to open and which way it closes. In this case, this opens this way, clockwise, and it closes counterclockwise. Now I'm going to go get a magic marker. I like to write on here an arrow in the direction that it closes. It's not a very good arrow, but it'll work. Because remember, the other valve is upside down and it's going to open and close the opposite direction. So I'm going to open this about a half a turn. Now when I open and close these service valves, this adjustable wrench is one method. A 1/4 inch wrench is another method, but you have a very likelihood of stripping this. Even with the adjustable wrench, you can strip it. The best method is a 12-point 9/32 socket on a 1/4 inch wrench, and it fits over this beautifully. So if you got a tough one, it fits nice and snug. Well, that makes it easy. Now we're going to hook up the high side service valve. Take the cap off. They're already loose, it looks like. That's not good. I like to put all my caps up here on the cowling so they don't blow away, because when you charge this, the fan will be running. Now remember, if this service valve opened up towards the compressor, this is going to open in the opposite direction since they're upside down. So that means I have to open it away from the compressor. So here's my mark. These manual service valves have been baffling mechanics for decades. Everybody hated them, including me, when I first saw one. I didn't understand what they were or where they came from, but hopefully I've explained all that to you, and we'll be able to do this safely and correctly. Always wear safety glasses. If this refrigerant gets on you, if you open up a loaded system, it can cause frostbite. But make sure the system is properly emptied before you even start doing this. Yeah, that's empty. So now it's safe to check the refrigerant oil. Use a 1/2 inch wrench, loosen it up, take it out with your fingers, blow off any paint chips that come off. Never remove this with refrigerant in the system. Whoa, we got something in there. Oh, look at that. It's just barely anything. That could be from temperature changes. There's no refrigerant in here. I know that already because this just had a new seal put in the front. Now we're going to take something that looks like a dipstick. You can use a coat hanger, or this is a clamp tool. Stick it in the hole, push it all the way to the bottom, pull it back up. We should have at least 7/8 of an inch of refrigerant oil. That's the low point. This is only at 1/2 inch. So now we have to fill it to 7/8 of an inch, which is right here. Do not overfill. I have my refrigerant oil bottle outfitted with a cap from a Gear Lube bottle. This is my funnel. And at that point, I can put a little in at a time out of the bottle, nice and neat, without making a mess. Because if you spill it, this top area of the compressor here is shaped like a swimming pool, and it will hold all kinds of junk. We're going to let that drain down and recheck it. This oil is wax-free mineral oil. That's a Napa part number 209500 for R12 automotive air conditioning systems only. Okay, put my finger over the bottom. Recheck it with our little dipstick thing. It's almost up to 3/4. Dipstick it again. That's very close. That should work. Make sure there's no problem with the O-ring. If you have any refrigerant oil on your fingers, you should always lube up the O-ring with refrigerant oil. Do not overfill this compressor thinking it's a good idea, because it will affect the performance of the system. It will reduce the amount of cooling. So the next step is the boring part. We have to use a vacuum pump. There's all sorts of vacuum pumps out there. This is actually a medical vacuum pump, but you can use anything you want. Even an old air conditioning compressor can be used as a vacuum pump. If you buy a vacuum pump specifically for air conditioning, it will have this fitting right here on it. So you can hook the hose of your vacuum pump up to the yellow hose, which is the vacuum and the fill hose. Once again, make sure the system's completely empty before you do this. Since this system has been open for God knows how many years with a leaky front seal, we're going to run this for at least 1 hour. You can even run it longer. We have to remove all moisture from the air out of the system by using the vacuum, and we have to remove all air out of the system because oxygen, nitrogen is very bad for an air conditioner. It makes it cool horribly and the pressures go through the roof. The moisture can mix with the refrigerant and make hydrochloric acid and tear up everything in the car. So you want to make sure you run this vacuum pump for a very long period of time. There we go, that's about right. But before we turn off the vacuum pump, we need to shut both service valves on our gauge set. There we go. Now we can shut the pump off. And now we wait 30 minutes. The system should hold a vacuum and the gauges should be steady the whole time. So this is what we use. It's a 12A substitute for R12 systems. Use it to replace R12 on an R12 system. This is a brand Frosty Cool, made in Canada, same place as the car. This is organic, biodegradable. It works fantastic. Runs at lower pressures, has a better heat exchange rate than even R12. So this is really gonna soup up the system. You will need to buy a can dispenser, and you screw it in. But you unscrew the pointed part because that punctures the can. If you can see that, when I screw this in, it punctures the can. So do not attempt to screw this on unless this valve is fully back seated. It's got a gasket in there. Make sure the gasket's there. Then you screw it onto the can. Wear your safety glasses in case of foul play here. And I'm just gonna tighten this down. You can hear a little psst, and that's it. And you want to tighten that up all the way. There, no leaks. So we do have to have an adapter. This is the adapter. It's the same kind of adapter that's on the can of 134A, the bulk cans. You will need the adapter and the little can tap and valve. All cans have the screw fitting on. If you get one of the old cans of R12, you'll have to use a different dispensing method. So at this point, we want to insert this on the yellow hose and turn it upside down. I have to unscrew this valve. Make sure everything's tight. I'm keeping the can upside down. Now, we're going to open up both service valves here on our gauge set, and both these service valves on the car have to be in their open position, the same position they were in when we evacuated the system and ran the vacuum pump. So watch the gauges. Can's upside down. We're going to put it in both the high and the low side in liquid form and try to get as much out of this can as we can possibly get out. This is a great shortcut, doesn't hurt anything. Make sure the engine is not running. If you start the engine and put liquid in, you're going to have a problem. You can hear it, and the can will be cool, and then it'll start warming up. If it empties, you may not get every bit out of the can, but this is when we turn the can right side up and start the engine. But before we start it, turn the high side valve off. As a matter of fact, just for safety measure, we're going to turn the low side off also. Before starting the car, turn the fan on high, turn the mode selector all the way over to AC right here, and then the temperature lever should be to the cool position to keep the heater from running. Then we go over to the AC temperature control. Just turn it all the way up. That way the compressor won't cycle and we'll get the refrigerant in faster. So let's start the engine. With the compressor running, make sure you can see that the front of the compressor is engaged. You should hear a noise from the compressor. And you should also see some high side pressure, and you should be below zero on the low side until you get a full charge. Now we're going to open the low side up. That's refrigerant going in. Looks like this can is empty already. So to switch cans, we're going to shut the low side valve off, put a new can on. Okay, we're going to put another can on, and we're going to loosen the valve a couple turns, hold it upright. There we go. Open up the low side service valve. It's going to remove the refrigerant from the can a lot faster this way. You watch the high side pressure start moving up. With this type of refrigerant, we'll see it at least 150, if not more. It's relatively warm today. You don't want to do this on a cold day. You can flip the can upside down briefly. Watch the needles as I flip the can. You'll see them bob up and down. That means there's refrigerant in the can. The can should be nice and cold. Temperature gauge shows this can at 15 degrees. 15 degrees on the can. So on a hot day, this feels pretty good. But don't get it close to your eyes. If you warm it up with your hands, the refrigerant goes in faster. High side pressure is at 125. Low side is almost up to 10. Let's see if we're getting any duct temperature. It's already at 46 degrees. We'll check it again later. Little frosty. It's not unusual to see frost forming on the line. It's getting a little frosty. Oh, look at that. Turning white. There is a sight glass, and you want the sight glass to be no bubbles in the sight glass. And right now we have bubbles. Now we're going to check the duct temperature. These cars have amazing air conditioners. 1.5 degrees, 0 degrees, -2, -3, -4, -5. And this is on the left-hand duct, which normally is hotter than the center duct. We're going to hit -10. Yes, there's the famous -10, and it's still going. Amazing air conditioners on these Bricklins. So here you go, guys. We're gonna finish the charging process. Let's go around to the hood. So we just shut down the high side service valve down here. We left the low side open. We're gonna open the low side valve here and keep this valve closed on the can at the same time. And since the high side has got over 150 in this high side hose, we're going to suck that out into the low side by opening the high side valve on our service set. And if you notice, it will pull all that down to 15 psi, and if I rev up the engine, it'll go lower. Then we're going to shut off the low side valve. And that means that the refrigerant will be out of my hoses, essentially, only 10 psi left in there. Now it's time to close the low side service valve, remember the arrow, and we are fully closed. Now it's safe to take off our hoses and we can shut off the engine. Once we shut off the engine, we can put our little service caps back on. Put them on by hand. Do not mutilate them like most mechanics do with the pliers. Look at that water dripping off that line. It was ice. Oh yeah, here's ice forming on the line. That means this system is not getting enough heat inside the car, and the rest of it's running back to the compressor. There is a one-way check valve over here right next to the sight glass that when the compressor shuts off, when it cycles, it allows high pressure to stay in the line. It makes the air conditioning more efficient. Now we're going to remove the low side hose. You notice there shouldn't be any hissing or popping or spraying if this is all done properly. And it doesn't hurt to wear brown jersey gloves, especially your first time, so you don't get frostbite if you do something wrong. But always wear safety glasses. Now we've got our little caps with the 45-degree seat on them. That's what makes the seal. Try not to lose these. If you're missing any of these parts, call bighbricklin.com. Snug them down decently, but not over tighten. There. And this AC is ready to go. Ice cold AC, minus 10 degrees, biodegradable refrigerant. This is less harm on the engine, better fuel economy, better heat exchange. The whole thing works great. Be sure to check out my air conditioner upgrade kits. So call us up. We'll get you the high fan relay connection kit and cowl seal, the front seal for the compressor, the parking brake boot, and don't forget the door weather strips. They all keep hot air from getting in the car. I hope this helps you finish your restoration project with some of the best air conditioning a classic car has ever seen.